So, welcome everyone to another episode of the Sounds Like Sustainability webinar or conversation about sustainability and for sustainable development. It's a series of conversations where we try to explore not only what sounds like sustainability, but also what is actually sustainability. We look at it from very different perspectives. We try to open this conversation up to a multitude of communicators, from artists to architects, from lawyers to communication strategists and professionals. And I'm absolutely delighted to have a communication professional, a specialist for sustainability communication in this webinar here for this conversation. So thanks so much, Andrea Klepsch, for being here today. It's an amazing opportunity to not only better understand sustainability communication from an organizational perspective, but also to dare a bit of a deep dive into organizational environments and think about what sustainability does as a guiding principle within organizations. And for us as individuals. So usually we open up this webinar with a couple of seconds being quiet and listening. And listening means that everyone just put some attention to any kind of sounds that are in your surrounding that remind you of sustainability. And this is the first question to Andrea. If you kind of listen carefully around you, is there any sound that you can hear that make us part of your a bit of the setting where you are now and that reminds you of sustainability?
Well, thank you so much, Franziska, and hello to everybody around, not really around the world, but in different parts of the world. I'm sitting in my home office, and what I hear is the rain falling on the snow, which is a very special sound.
And what is your connection, thinking about the rain? And we had a quick chat before we officially started about the weather in this round here. Why and how would you relate this to your understanding of sustainability?
Well, the rain is fruitful, it's fertile, it brings new things, it helps to grow new things. And in this specific situation where it is falling on the snow, it's actually transforming the snow, which is part of sustainability transformation.
Excellent. So we're right here, exactly where we want to talk about. So maybe you can introduce yourself a bit and why transformation is at the core of your doing and of your thinking and feeling for many, many years now. And tell us a bit about your journey and your expertise that you bring to this setting today.
Well, my name is Andrea Klepsch. I live in Munich in Bavaria, Germany. And 35 years ago, after I made my way in the communication business, partly in San Francisco, partly in, or mostly in Germany, working for big brands like Campari, which I think is known all over the world. I decided my life power, my energy, although I love Campari, sitting on an Italian piazza, but I want to make my life power to grow the consciousness for a more connected world. And I founded my own communication agency. In those days, everybody was saying, "You're crazy. This will never become a business." They were right and they were wrong at the same time, because My agency is now on the market for more than 30 years. And they were right because I had to do compromises. I was taking on clients from New Zealand, and well, they were in some ways sustainable because agriculture or at least animal husbandry in New Zealand is very animal friendly. But on the other hand, transporting the stuff over to Europe or to Germany, in my case, can be questioned. But as I have a good relationship with New Zealand, I did it, and it gave me the economical freedom to support grassroots initiatives, but grassroots not in the sense of NGOs, more in the sense of business people, pioneers who wanted to do it differently, to do it more ecological, more social. In those days, we didn't speak about sustainability. The term was around, but in the communication PR business, it was not a name. Nowadays, everybody does communication on sustainability. My approach, or our approach, might best be described by our name, which is modum conclusa. It comes from the Latin, modus, the way, how you do it, and concludere, to draw your own conclusion. That's what my intention is. I don't want to persuade or manipulate. I want to offer knowledge as well as emotions, and let the people find their own way. And the sort of claim of the agency is the culture of relation, which also shows our thinking. And customers or clients are mainly companies in the food business and in the construction housing business, just so you get a picture.
No, that is amazing. And sorry for jumping in. I just think this claim, the culture of relations, is so helpful when we want to further explore what sustainability means as a term, or what it actually is. Is it a principle? Is it a norm? Is it something that tells us how to do things? So I would be curious to hear, how would you define sustainability beyond this kind of, okay, dealing with the resources in a way that future generations have enough? Like, what is the term doing? Like, what is it from your perspective?
Sorry, I just turned it off.
That's all good.
I hope it doesn't ring again.
It's
I've turned off.
That's okay.
I have turned off the mobile, but not the old-fashioned phone. Where do I start? Sustainability is a process. I find this is very important. And today I came across a paper which is headed "World Scientists Warning the Behavioral Crisis Driving Ecological Overshot." Well, I believe in serendipity, so this came across my email, or popped up in my email today, and it really points out my understanding of sustainability. It is an inner and outer relationship. Yes, it is climate crisis. Yes, it is too much CO2. What is it? Carbon
Emissions.
Yes, it is a loss in biodiversity. but it is also a crisis in our behavior, and behavior is coined by our, Franziska, you have to help me, Weltbild, worldview?
Yeah, worldview or our understanding of the world.
Yeah, of our understanding of the world. And here I make a quick relation to my philosophy, because normally PR or communication is sending and trying to convince. And I think if we put the effort more on relating to each other, on deeper listening, what are the sorrows of the others? And here I want to add, not only of other human beings, also of other beings. May it be trees, animals. In my worldview, these are all beings and they all have a right to live.
This perspective on sustainability as being a process is really interesting because it goes beyond more static concepts of, okay, it means a certain way how we deal with resources. And to connect it with culture and how we do things leads us somehow to an understanding of sustainability as the quality of how we do things. So a guiding principle for how we do things. And this means individual action, but this also means organizational action or corporate activities and corporate processes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to sneak in a maybe a bit provocative, a critical question, because the deeper listening and the creation and manifestation of a culture of relations to not only human beings but also nature and environment is something that we might share from a philosophical point of view. This is what we discuss a lot in the IECA, the organization that is co-hosting this event, and I'm very grateful for having people from the IECA here, Valentina and Steve. So this is something we talk a lot about. But the big question is, do corporations at the moment, are they willing to pay money for it? For some experts who kind of stimulate to change their thinking towards this new understanding, and for communication strategies that go hand in hand with that, that actually kind of help them for that.
Mm-hmm.
What is your feeling? Where are we here in the business and corporate world?
Corporate world is and are people.
Mm-hmm.
And people are, I think, around the world in similar crisis and needs, and realize that just counting carbon emissions, as I said before, is not enough. Whether they are willing to pay for it, it's a different question. And my experience is yes, some are, because they realize the power of a different culture within a company for the transformation. Some of them want, not all of them want. They are investing for it. I think this might be a good point to ask you. Who of you knows the framework IDGs? Probably the lady from Norway. Does anybody know them? Interesting. I see no nodding.
I don't.
Ah, one person. The Inner Development Goals is a movement which started 2022, and coming out, it started earlier. And I find it fascinating that companies like IKEA, Google, HP are working with these inner development goals as a framework to achieve the sustainable development goals from an inner work individually and organizational. So they are paying for it. And we also have clients who are starting to invest or to go first steps with money behind it to work on this inner development because most of them are quite firm with sustainability norms, regulations, CSRD, ESG, and so on. They're familiar, but they're stuck. So yes, there's a hope. Put it this way.
Who in organizations is responsible for pushing this movement?
Franziska, here you are touching a critical point because we
are
yeah, we're working in silos. There's the marketing department, and there is the sustainability department, and there's the HR department, and they have to work together. Maybe they even have to merge. And I just read about a case here in Germany where HR and communication merged. Mm-hmm. And what they let us know so far, there's not much publicity yet, but that it really speeded up their activities. And I just want to say in brackets, I self made the experience in my company that we have many applications from young people who want a job with a sense-making job, but this desire for something sense-making is not enough. It really needs, you need to be willing to question yourself, to question your lifestyle, to question your worldview. So in coming back to companies, it's really the critical issue that we have the HR department, which normally would do this work, but they're not related to sustainability. And sustainability is not achieving what they want to achieve because the people in the companies are not really identified, are not really open. It makes sense to them, but.
So there are two questions that come up in my mind. First, I want to just briefly stay with this phenomena that in companies and business, those departments, marketing, HR, and they are all still separated. And kind of looking 10 years back or 20 years back, there was a huge discussion about why PR and marketing are so far apart, and that PR should be somewhere on the strategic management level, and then like all those discussions. And now we entered a next level to that. And it's really interesting. Just a brief footnote, because I taught a course on internal organizational communication this morning. And the final task is that the students have to think about a communication strategy and a plan, how to tackle some of the problems they identified with an interview, looking into organizations and the communication problems within the organization. It was really interesting because there was this girl, and she asked me, well, you say we need to pretend to be a PR agency, but they do all the external stuff only. Like, why should I think about a strategy for the internal communication now? And that was exactly the point, because then she said, wouldn't this be part of the responsibility of the HR people? And that kind of, and then we had exactly the same discussion, why HR sits somewhere very different compared to comms, and then communication is often perceived as happening somewhere on the organization environment intersection. My question to you as a PR professional would be, how can PR and all the knowledge and the professionality that we gained over the years, how can this help now to establish those IDGs and the communication processes around it within organizations? Like what can we bring to the table from our experience? You know what I mean? So
But
that
yeah, the shortcut would really be to bring internal and external communication together, but there is no shortcut. Not in too many, maybe some take the shortcut, but I think the way round is that people get in touch with these new thinkings. They have this inner desire and they have this inner knowledge that really something has to change, and they meet these ideas, for example, in 500 IDG hubs around the world. And then they bring it into the back door of the companies, talk about it, and sometimes it's a CEO who is infected, probably with IKEA and Google and HP, where they're at the forefront. But I think in many cases it comes to the back door. And what I experience, especially with this inner to outer to inner concept, there is a sort of, oh, emotions. They have nothing to do in a company. This is facts and figures, or esoteric. So it is not easy. I just heard from my own company where we had a whole year we were working with these inner development goals. And for those, sorry, I didn't elaborate a little bit on them. There's 5 dimensions. One is being, second is thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting. And there are skills like critical thinking, like connectedness, like courage, optimism. I don't want to name all 23. And coming back to what I just said within my own company, they said today they don't want to continue with the IDG work because this is sort of personal coaching.
Oh, really? Okay.
And this within my own company. I'm very honest to you, I was shocked.
Yeah, wow. Ooh.
Yeah, I was shocked. And I have to find a way, maybe you can help me, how to get them again.
Yeah, there
I
is a
know that it is challenging. Yes. I know it myself, to react always with a complexity awareness, or to have the sense making feel, or the openness and learning mindset. We are all learning. That's my experience.
I love that, and thanks for sharing this example. It leads us nicely back to where you started. People thought you were crazy and will never work out, and they were wrong and they were right. And this is probably the dialectic that is in all the sustainability communication work. You do a step in one direction, and then you might need to adjust, and you stabilize and institutionalize certain things, and they go well. But then, of course, you're challenged suddenly in a very different area, and it kind of circles back. But before, like, I know that there is some kind of really good thinking power here and experts that can say something about CEOs and their role in these companies explicitly. But I'm curious about one other thing before we focus too much on like either the comms people or CEOs. In environmental communication as kind of as a discipline that is very interdisciplinary, it's very broad and tries to always keep those connections up between academic research and then, okay, what is really done. There's something that drives all of us academics and practitioners, and which has been articulated very nicely by a wonderful colleague of us, Robert Cox, who said it's already more than 10 years ago. He said, we all have this ethical duty to think about our agency of change and to kind of be these agents of change. And I think this developed somehow into a bit of a claim in other areas as well. Think more about agency and individual agency. And for me, this is very closely related to what you said about the IDGs, those inner development goals. Because one is what you just said, it's this kind of coaching, psychological aspect of questioning yourself. But the other kind of component of that, from my perspective, is to actually take agency and to take authorship for your own stories that you tell and your own processes of identifying yourself. So I would be curious if your perspective and your knowledge of different other organizations and larger companies and smaller companies, within these organizational settings, who are potential agents of change? Is it only the CEOs? Is it only the comms people, or the, I don't know, on a management level? Like, who are those agents of change?
I wish I could give a different answer than I'm going to give.
That's okay.
My experience, it is really top management who have to initiate it. If they're not open, it is really hard for others, and I think it has such a great frustration potential. It would then at the end leave the people without energy behind them. So it is really a question of, an agency is a question of responsibility, and the leaders are the responsibility takers.
Yeah.
So
that's very consistent with work that has been done in these early years of business ethics, and kind of think, okay, who's the responsible businessman and why is it the CEO and his or her values that drive the value frameworks that are cultivated within organizations. Since we have this great group of people here, and I feel like at least Alex is kind of like, I really want to say something. I would love to open this up for questions and kind of you guys just sharing your thoughts and your expertise, because my feeling is there's a lot here in this round. So please go ahead and ask your questions or comment on what Andrea said and ask her more questions that I was asking so far.
Okay, I may start.
Yes.
I just wanna as you know, I'm finishing something for your book. So I'm working on this communication sustainability and the role of the CEOs in this topic. And yesterday or 2 days ago, I just found a paper, I think from Patrick Vettel, I'm not sure, and it talks about the chief sustainability officer, which I never heard about, and I don't know any company in the world that has one. So at least in Portugal, it's something that, okay, you have a top management leader that is just under commas, of course, responsible for sustainability. And it's something that I don't know any company with it. So I found it very interesting. And I was wondering where in the hierarchy, so you talked just a few minutes ago, a few years ago, I think it's different from the US, from Europe. The marketing usually it's not under the hierarchy. Marketing it's close to the administration or to the CEO, so it's kind of different. And I'm wondering where in the hierarchy the chief sustainability officer will fit. It's like the same level as the marketing director, commercial director. Or it's above, where is it? It's inside the communication department. And I was like, whoa, where does this figure and this role fits in one organization? And I was just wondering. So maybe we can.
Yeah, the question is amazing. Andrea, you want to go first? And then I might add something because we're doing a research project exactly on
Ah,
this at the moment.
okay. I
And
have,
what is your take on that?
yeah, it's great to hear from the research project. I think in an ideal world, there should be no sustainability chief sustainability officer. Sustainability should be a task of all CEOs in an ideal world. And I agree, although I've heard of some chief sustainability officers in Germany, but this is maybe 2 or 3. The majority is sustainability responsible administration people, and that's one of the problems besides the inner and outer. Why it is stuck, because they come up with proposals and then chief finance officer says, we have no money. The other says, we have more urgent work to do. We do this when we have time, and things like that. So it really needs to be within the all leaders, and they have to have time to discuss it like we're discussing it now. Every week, at least 2 hours, sit down and discuss what it means for the company. So what is the research saying, Francisco?
No, that's exactly, and thanks, Alex, for bringing this up, because that's really interesting that you doing research on CEOs of those big companies and how they drive values and kind of the topics there. And so we are currently looking into all those new roles, and we're trying to create a bit of a typology here, because the chief sustainability officer is not the only one, not the only role that's emerging in this area. So there are many, many more, from kind of more project management, more administrative, more reporting based or focused, or even more accounting focused. And so just to give you a rough idea, we searched for kind of key terminology around sustainability management, CSR management, like in this area, in like the German speaking countries, and in like English platforms, job platforms for the announcements. And within a time frame of 4 weeks, considering that a lot of job postings stay there a bit longer, we found 500 job announcement in this area, just in the German speaking countries, like even a bit more of that. So it's really interesting what is happening currently in terms of, like, on the one hand, green skills that are asked in different roles that are not always labeled with sustainability or transformation or CSR, but by the same time, more jobs that are explicitly called sustainability officer or sustainability manager or sustainability reporting, I don't know, whatever. And but you tapped into a second aspect, or you mentioned something that is also really important. Where are they located in? And yes, the big companies, they do now have their chief sustainability officer, and that's a C-suite kind of top management level. We're speaking of the big ones. Other than that, if you look a bit further down, it's mostly somewhere in the administration. It's mostly somewhere more about, hey, let's get a new recycling system sorted, and hey, what about our water usage? How can we reduce that? And that is referring to what you said, Andrea, the sad news. Because
Exactly.
why is it not on a strategic level? And why is it not deeply rooted in HR, for example? But why is it somewhere more in the administrative? Why is it really about resource management? And this is the same happening at universities. And we had the same discussions at universities, because the sustainability is on the agenda of people dealing with the resources of organizations. and not so much in terms of how values are established and lived, and creating conversational spaces where this can be negotiated and all this. So I can only kind of support, but by the same time say, yes, there are heaps of new roles emerging. And it would be really interesting for everyone who teaches at a university to think about it, the programs, because these are the young people that we teach in communication, in environmental communication, climate change communication, and strategic communication. They will not end up all in a PR agency. They will not rock up at Modem Conclusa and say, oh, I'm so passionate about sustainability, I want to work for you, because they will be the ones that bring communication skills, management skills, and they have the strategic thinking they bring to the table. And if we teach them well in terms of environmental issues and communication strategies and rhetorics, then they will be really good ones in taking those roles. So that's kind of my take on that. Sorry for jumping ahead. Are there any more questions? Sorry for being a bit monological here.
I was just thinking, since we were discussing this, well, from a Norwegian perspective, like one of the two biggest companies in Norway, Equinor and the Norske Veritas, they have chief sustainable officers in the executive committee. And I seem to remember that the Norske Veritas, the first one, was perhaps someone coming from the communication department. But then when they have to change their business strategy to become a more sustainable business strategy, and then you see some kind of other profile popping up. It's more supply chain management at Equinor. It's the head of sustainability, safety, and security, or actually safety, security, and sustainability. So I think what they're asking now is some kind of different competence to be in the C-suite, to be the sustainable officer, because with all respect for us communication practitioners, most of us do not have deep knowledge of supply chain management and so on. So there is a risk that what we're suggesting is just not possible within the business strategy. But you need, of course, a communication director who is able to communicate then this new business strategy. Well, just out of the top of my head, what I'm thinking about, yeah.
Yeah, I love this. And Andrea, I don't know how you, like, from your long professional practice and all those deep insights that you have, like, how important is the business knowledge, the actual kind of knowledge about those management processes, and then going beyond the strategic level into like actual, okay, what about the suppliers, how to manage them, and how important is that for your concept and idea of sustainability communication within organization? Sorry, Steve, you will be next.
I try to answer it quickly. I think when you, as a communication manager, want to throw the seeds of sustainability into the soil of a company, you need to have knowledge, not the deepest knowledge, but you have to know how a sustainability strategy is developed, what are the issues, and I think the communication manager, at least I've experienced this as an external, quite a few of our clients said to me, Andrea, thank you for being so stubborn with your sustainability message. And they finally, after 10 years, they made it to get the German Sustainability Award. And it was hard for me. It is not easy to be stubborn. It's much easier to turn around and say, if they don't want, okay, find somebody else. But really, and here again, I come up with communication skills. I think we are really trained to combine convincing, deep listening, complexity. I think this is our business, and we're needed. So that's my answer, or my thought, not an answer.
I love that. Steve, sorry.
Hey, friends. This is Steve from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States. By the way, our organization, the International Environmental Communication Association, is in the final stages of preparing a series of on-demand online courses for environmental communication professionals, one of which is entitled Sustainability Communication. And we have the instructor of that course with us today, who is the moderator.
Wow.
Wonderful to work with Franziska on this project. If we take, I'm just thinking about taking a step back about all the way to the beginning of the term sustainable development and what that was trying to accomplish for various parties, trying to create spaces and opportunities for a win-win. You know, we can do this and we can do this. You know, we can do a better job of preserving and promoting ecological goals and not lose track of the economic goals that drive industry, drive companies, and so on. And then that kind of evolved to this so-called triple bottom line idea, that can we manage our strategy and activities so we can serve people, profit, and planet, you know, variations of that. And, you know, it's really hard. I think in many companies, the driver of the companies are the stockholders. I mean, the CEO is in the chair trying to deliver, but stockholders, investors in companies, you know, really have a fairly short-term window of what they want to see in terms of performance. You know, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 1 quarter. And so some of the changes that we're talking about that are needed take time. Even if everyone's on board, you know, they take some time. So managing the timescales between you know, these environmental ecological problems seem to be coming faster and faster. The need for transformational change, it takes time. But then these investors want, you know, they want return. And if the CEO can't deliver, they're going to get replaced. At least in the United States. I don't know if that's true everywhere. So to me, what was really interesting about the Sustainable Development Goals developed by the UN is they took that triple bottom line idea, which almost seems impossible to achieve, and broke it down a little bit more into more specific, concrete areas of activity that different companies will pay attention to different ones of those, but might provide opportunities to recapture this win-win concept. Can we do things for the planet that also can be profitable in our own little sphere, our own little setting, or, you know, whatever we're doing in our industry? You know, it's still difficult, but I've not heard of the interdevelopment goals before you mentioned them today. So I just went on their website quickly, and they're claiming to maybe help, you know, leaders, thought leaders, CEOs, et cetera, find a bridge between these goals and what your company wants to achieve, and also what's needed to change in terms of the mission, vision, et cetera, of companies. You know, where can this be an opportunity to, you know, I mean, CEOs have to be convinced that it's worth their time, but how can these interdevelopment goals perhaps, you know, go from the individual person to the company, and then maybe a bridge out to achieving at least some of these sustainable development goals in ways that will satisfy the stockholders, you know, who want to get their return on investment, you know, for somewhat impatient. But I saw the potential to bridge, you know, these sustainable development goals the UN set out and what individual companies, you know, want to try to achieve through these interdevelopment goals. I mean, this kind of a new initiative. Have you seen any of that, you know, impatience from the folks that own the stock or want to see, you know, immediate results, you know, kind of impede transformational change sometimes?
I think you're pointing directly to the wound. How do you say when you hurt yourself of this transformation? Time. And this is one of my criticism as maybe too strong, but critical thinking to the SDGs. I love them. And I especially love the SDG 17 partnership because we won't solve these problems alone, only in partnership. But the critical point is that we say by 2030, we have to achieve them. And the pressure becomes from day to day harder and stronger, and we get hectic, and it won't work with this time pressure. And the other thing I want to say at this, or to add to your great sharing your experience, is we also have to cope with failures. I know from Danone, from Unilever, they had so inspired CEOs. Danone had every month the whole team assembled in their lobby, and they had a sustainability experience. He got fired because he didn't deliver what the shareholders wanted to see, and not in time. But I know, because they are our customer or client, he left something behind it. And it cannot be wiped out, although it is sort of a how do you say, lashback, but it is coming. And I know of some of these people who tried and who had to leave are now very engaged in the inner development program. Sure, they have enough money. They can do it without getting paid. But time is a big thing. And that's why I was saying we have to change our world picture. Profit. What is profit? Is it a profit that our waters stay clean? Isn't that the biggest profit we can probably achieve?
I think the one word that might be useful is investment. You're investing time, resources, and they'll have various levels of return at various times. You know, one of the challenges in the energy industry in the United States and elsewhere is once a company makes a decision, whether it's oil and gas company, whatever, they sink a lot of dollars into a particular process, and they want to extract as many dollars out of that as possible, even though it's no longer useful, it's polluting, it's dirty, but they sunk so much money into it to start with that there's a fear that you can't just pull out of that. And I think that makes it difficult, every industrial decision where you have to decide what you're manufacturing, how you're going to do it. It doesn't, something like you can't just pivot on a dime and change, you know, in 3 months. Again, even if everybody wanted to. But investment as an idea, you know, you're investing in your employees, you're investing in yourself, you're investing in processes, but you're also investing in the future of the planet. But again, that's an economic metaphor, and then the stockholders will say, hey, invest, yeah, but I want my return, you know, so it's a challenge. But I do like the word investment.
Yeah. It also reminds me a little bit of, I don't remember the name of the documentary, but it was about the energy sector in Scotland, where they, on the contrary to the Norwegian energy sector, where Equinor is then still 60% owned, state-owned, so it's actually a state-owned company, where Scotland sold off to private companies, and then of course you have investors and you have investment companies. And know that the oil and gas industry is declining and severely in Scotland. There's a huge problem for Scotland. One, they're very dependent on the energy, but it's also jobs, it's social life, it's innovation. And the investment companies are now also, as you said, trying to extract every dollar possible. They don't invest in innovation because the people working on those platforms or in those industries are really asking for invest. We have the knowledge. The same is Norway is saying the same. We have the knowledge of wind energy, everything, all our experience and knowledge we have from oil and gas, we can transfer that to wind energy and so on and so on. But yeah, it's looking dark there. So how the concept of investment, I totally agree, or also what is profit, could be interesting to explore from another philosophical point of view than just return on money then, because return on investment is not perhaps clear enough then. Mm.
And also practical point, because coming back to the water, how much money do we nowadays need to clean the water so we can drink it? It's crazy. First we put all the stuff on the fields and then we have to clean the water. And is the investment that the plants grow maybe a little bit faster and we throw away so much food anyhow, and then try to invest in order to cure the damage we do. So investment is really a good concept where we have to look into very deeply.
And I think, so we're kind of coming to an end of this wonderful discussion anyway. And this is just one thought of that, because this is where we as communication experts or people dealing with communication come in again. Because a lot that we talked about is about redefining what we're doing and opening spaces for this redefinition, not just in very small kind of conversational spaces, but especially in organizations, in those corporates. And if they have the space, or if they open up those spaces, and if they have a redefinition process happening within their own structures, and potentially including their stakeholders, more generally speaking here, and shareholders, okay, what does investment mean for us? What does profit mean for us? And follow this new definition, then it's less philosophical, less ethically overloaded, and less like, ooh, fluffy, careful. And it is not only happening in the future, it's happening right here now, sitting together and redefining what do we mean when we speak of investment? What is investment for us? And I think this is something, again, as you pointed out very nicely, Andrea, this is what what communication experts can do, because they do the critical kind of nudging, the questioning, the cracking up the existing definitions and developing some new with narrative approaches, with storytelling and all the nice little tools we have in our pockets. So I think that's a really nice way to close this up, and send you a massive, big, amazing thank you for this great input, and everyone who joined today. I'm very, very grateful for your thoughts, and I hope we still we keep connected, either through IECA as an organization and of course through our personal networks and connections. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you all. Thank you, Franziska, for the opportunity, and thank you all for the discussion. And I just wish us all good power in questioning and in listening as communicators. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.